This is the third video in the mixing series, using the same session that we've been looking at for the last two mixing videos. And in this one we're going to be looking at EQ and processing and effects. So obviously EQ is a way of adjusting the frequency balance of instruments, and we're going to start off by looking at the snare down here. So if you want to select the snare, remember these are still grouped here. And if we press solo on there, it's going to select all of them. So what we need to do is hold down Alt and press the solo button of the snare so we can just hear the snare. And we'll make sure there's a cycle region above the pre-chorus, like I've got here. And then you'll need to click into your channel EQ area there on the channel strip, which will open this up, and then place it into your channel strip there. And this is our EQ plug-in here. We can see these are the on-off buttons for the different bands, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bands of EQ. Normally these two end ones are off, and these other bands have their own frequency bands down here with different parameters, which we'll get into soon. This is the analyzer here. If we hold this down and we listen to a track, it will show us the frequency analysis of the thing we're listening to. Just incidentally, below here, where it says post EQ at the moment, we're listening to, we're analysing. The analyzer is showing us what the frequency spectrum balance looks like after the sound has gone through this EQ and out the other end. So it's at the output of the EQ. If we change that to pre-EQ, what we're viewing is a spectrum analysis of the sound as it's coming in. Okay, so if we change that to pre-EQ and we just listen back to that snare, we can see a few things. We can see that the bass drum down here, when you listen to it, in these lower regions, is playing quite a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that. We're going to select this high pass filter here on on the low end. Sorry, not the high pass filter, the cutoff here for the low end, which at the moment is set to 30 Hertz. That means that it's rolling off as of 30 Hertz at a rate of 24 decibels per octave. Okay, don't worry too much about what it means, but it just means the gradient that's coming off here at the moment. Okay, so we're going to drag the frequency parameter of the first band up to 70. Okay, so that it starts cutting off at 70 rather than 30. Okay, and now we can see that the EQ band shape updates in the graphic display, and it's a lot lower around where that kick drum's coming in. Okay, if we watch it in post EQ, we can really see how that's gone. If we look at pre-EQ, loads of bass drum coming in here. Post EQ, it's all gone, pretty much. Okay, below 70 Hertz, it's going. Okay, so now we're going to attenuate the low mid frequencies to get the mud out of the snare sound. So instead of adjusting the numerical settings in the parameter section down the bottom, you can drag the pointer in the graphic display up here, representing those different frequency bands, the pointers here. We can drag them to adjust the shape of individual bands. So we're going to position the pointer over the graphic display and move the pointer from left to right. Okay, so which one are we going to choose? Let's choose this one. Drag it left to right. And we can see that that's adjusting the frequency band. Or sorry, the center frequency, the frequency that is going to be adjusted the most by the changes that we make. Okay, which is a moment for that particular pointer there, says 455. Okay, so that's the kind of low mid section. As we move the pointer horizontally, we can see the settings for the EQ band highlighted in the parameter section. Okay, so they're down here. And we can shape the selected EQ by dragging in the graphic display. So we're going to adjust the gain, we can drag vertically in the area of the EQ band. So we can just drag up like that anywhere in that area, and it drags the gain up or down accordingly. So to adjust the frequency, we can drag horizontally in the area. So we can adjust it like that. And to adjust the Q, which is the width, the band width, or resonance, we can drag the pivot point. As you can see, hover over it and then the little Q comes up. And if we drag that vertically, here it adjusts the amount of frequencies that we're adjusting at any one time. Okay, so that's the band width. Okay, so first you'll need to adjust the gain of the band to see its shape on the graphic display. So position the pointer to select the fourth band. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one. 1, 2, 3, 4. This band. Position the pointer to select the fourth band, which originally was currently set to 500 Hertz. And we're going to drag down so that the gain parameter reads -10 dB. Okay. So let's just get that to -10 dB. It was at 500 Hertz. No doubt we're going to need to change that. So the shape of the selected EQ band appears in the graphic display, and the settings below are adjusted according to your mouse movements. So while listening to the snare, you will adjust the Q and the frequency of the EQ band that you're attenuating. So we're going to drag the pivot point all the way down to get a wide band of EQ. So we're going to drag this all the way down to get a really wide band, and we're going to so something like that. Okay, and we're going to drag the band to the left to set the frequency at 455 or thereabouts. And we can double tap into that and select 455 if you want to be more precise. And we're going to set the gain to -11. It's quite a lot we're taking out. You can see now from that sound. But it sounds less muddy. Let's have a listen. Yeah, it's a bit more punchy, a bit more nice. Got a bit more of an attack to the sound. So remember to click the bypass button to compare the sound before and after the EQ. So we can bypass it up here. And already we can hear it's a lot less muddy, it's going to take up a lot less room in the mix, and it sounds better. Okay, so let's adjust the sixth EQ band's parameters. Okay, we're going to set band 6, that's 876, this one here. We're going to set it so the frequency is 5,700 Hertz. Double click into that, so 5,700, 5700, 00. And we're going to set the gain to +7.5, so double click into that, 7.5, enter. And we're going to set the Q to, we're going to drag it right down to 0.12. There we go. So that whole area now is up here has really been accentuated. Let's have a listen to that. Bypass. Okay, it sounds clearer, so this will cut through the mix better now. So let's close the EQ button, EQ plugin rather. Press Command W and unsolo the snare track there. And if we keep playing the song and option click the channel EQ plugin to toggle it on and off, you compare the sound with or without the channel EQ with the whole thing. So let's have a listen to it. First of all, without. So we're going to option click the EQ to bypass that plugin. I'm going to listen back to it and bring it in. Okay, punches through a lot better. Okay, so from the mixer's local menu, which is this bit up here, we're going to choose Options, Group Clutch. Options, Group Clutch. Okay. So this has dimmed all of the channel strip groups that we've set up down here, and we're going to drag the snare fader up to -3.1 because it wasn't quite loud enough. Or we can double tap into there and type in -3.1. There we go. Or we can just drag it up. We're going to press Command G again to turn the drums group back on. So Command G brings that back in. If I press Command G again, it's the key command for choosing Group Clutch. Okay. Group Clutch turns it on and off. The clutch turns it on and off. Okay, so in the bar ruler, we're going to click the cycle area to turn the cycle mode off up here. We're going to look now at using delay and reverberation. So obviously in a natural environment, an instrument's sound is reflected by the floor, the walls and everything around it. So the sounds of those reflections combined with the direct sound of the instrument allow the listeners to determine the distance from the instrument to their ears and understand the nature of the acoustic space. When recording instruments, you can choose to record in an absorbent studio to primarily record the direct sound of each instrument, and then we can add delay and reverberation later using plugins to create artificial reflections, which gives us total control over the apparent placement and depth of the instruments in the mix. First of all, we're going to look at adding delay to the vocals. So we're going to close the mixer, press X on your keyboard, and we're going to select track 24 down here, which is the lead vocal. And if we start playback at the beginning of the first verse, we can notice how dry the vocals sound. So there's the first verse just here. Let's have a listen.
There's a room with all the rain somewhere at the core.
Okay, they're nice and dry. They were recorded in a very absorbent studio, and you can't really hear much reverberation, especially not with all the other instruments playing at the same time. So we're going to add a delay plugin to add a dimension to the vocals. Okay, on the left arranged channel strip over here in the inspector, we're going to click the first available insert slot below de-esser, so this available one here, and we're going to choose delay, tape delay. So delay, tape delay. Okay, and this gives us the tape delay plugin. You can hear the reflections on the vocals as an echo. Let's have a quick listen to that. By default, the tape delay is automatically synchronized to the project tempo, which we can see up here, sync to the tempo. And the tempo here is the same as the tempo that's set in the project. So it's syncing it to that. That sounds fine for this song. In the tape delay window, you can use the two output sliders to the right, over here, to adjust the level between the dry and the wet sound. The dry is the sound that's not affected by the plugin, and the wet is the reflections generated by the plugin. So we're going to bring down, bring the dry signal all the way up to its maximum level, 100%. So that you have the same level of direct sound as you had before inserting the plugin. And at the lower left of the tape delay window, you can adjust the low cut and high cut sliders down here to filter the sound of the reflections. So narrowing the frequency range of the reflections gives them a more rounded sound. So they're not as sharp as the dry sound. This allows you to make the effect of the echo less perceptible and more natural sounding as it would be in a normal acoustic space. So we're going to drag the low cut slider towards the right to 160 Hertz. So low cut, 160 Hertz. So nothing below 160 Hertz is going to have any delay applied to it. And on the high cut slider, we're going to take that down to 10,000 Hertz. Okay. 10,000 hertz there. So nothing above 10,000 hertz will be put through the tape delay. So let's have a listen to that. The reflections are now softer and don't steal much attention from the vocal dry sound.
Center of the floor, trapdoor guardian.
Okay, so it just gives a little bit of a difference as well between those two things. Okay, let's look at adding reverb using an aux bus, okay, or using an aux send. This is a different way of applying it. Okay, you could insert a reverb plug directly into the channel strip, the same way you inserted the delay, but when you use a reverb to place instruments in an artificial room, using an individual reverb plugin for each instrument would require quite a lot of processing power. So we're just going to set up an auxiliary channel, so we can put a reverb effect on that, and then just send all the instruments that we want to have that reverb on them to that aux track, which then applies it to all of those signals coming in. So this is called an auxiliary channel. So once you have set up an aux channel with a plugin attached to it, you can add reverberation to any instrument by sending some of its signal to that aux channel for processing. So make sure the lead vocal track 24 is still selected and solo it. Solo it there. Let's just close this tape delay plugin. Okay, make sure that's soloed. And on the left over here, we're going to choose the sends button down here, and we're going to choose bus. And under bus, we can choose bus 2. Okay. There's already a chorus bus, we're going to choose bus 2. Okay, when you click a send slot and choose an available bus, a new aux channel strip is automatically created and placed next to it in the inspector here. See, aux 2. In the inspector, the right channel shows this as aux 2 down here. So you can see the signal path from the lead vocal channel strip to the aux channel strip. In the input-output section of the aux 2 channel strip, so just here, the input is set to bus 2. So it's taking an input from bus 2. Okay, and this is sending to bus 2. So this is sending to bus 2. This is taking an input from bus 2. Okay, so this is going to here. Okay, a bus is like a virtual audio cable that allows you to route the audio signal from one channel strip to another. Okay, it's just a cable. Imagine that. So in this case, from the lead vocal channel strip to a new aux channel strip. But by default, an aux send is positioned in the signal flow of the channel strip after the volume fader, but before the pan. For routing vocals to a reverb, that position is perfect, as the balance between dry and wet will be preserved if you adjust the level of the vocal. So on the channel strip setting, on the left, we're going to option click the send level knob next to the bus 2. So here, option click, and that sets it to 0 dB. Okay, and the aux 2 channel strip meter displays the same signal level as the left channel strip. Which it hasn't done there, but anyway. By default, choosing a new bus in the send slot of a mono channel strip creates a mono aux channel strip. In this case, you want to make that aux a stereo, so it has a wider stereo reverb effect, where different reflections have different positions in the stereo field. So you can toggle the mono stereo status down here. Let's hold this down and change it to stereo. Okay. So the format now displays 2 interleaved circles, and that means it's a stereo track. And we can notice that we've got 2 meters here now, left and right. Okay, that's how we know it's a stereo channel. Okay, so now we're going to insert a reverb plugin on this channel strip here. So under the inserts, we're going to choose reverb, and then Space Designer. Okay, it's a stereo effect there. So we're going to put that in. Okay, in the Space Designer graphic interface here, we're going to click the settings menu and choose O1 large spaces, and from this we're going to choose O1 rooms, and then we're going to choose 02.1s. Which one should we choose? Let's choose big drums. Okay, so now let's have a listen to that vocal. Okay, when you solo a channel strip, any channel strip included in its signal flow is not muted. In this case, output 1 to 2 and aux 2 are not muted, so you can hear the vocals and the reverb or any other effect that's applied on that aux channel. At the upper right of the Space Designer plugin window, notice the two output sliders. So we've got two up here. There's dry and there's the wet reverb. When a plugin is inserted onto an aux channel strip, the dry slider is automatically set to 0. So the aux channel strip processes 100% of the signal that is sent to the aux. You can adjust the balance between dry and wet signals on the left, on the left channel strip. So the volume fader adjusts the dry signal, and the bus 2 send level knob adjusts the amount of reverb. So let's have a look at that. If we drag the bus 2 send level knob down to -7.2 over here, so just hold it down, drag it down to -7.2. Or thereabouts. Okay. You can now send any channel strip to bus 2 to route it to that aux channel strip and add the same reverb effect to its sound. So let's add some reverb to one of the guitar tracks. So let's unsolo the vocals. Let's just drag this out of the way. And we're going to unsolo the vocals here. We're going to select the V Accuse 1 track, which is track 16, up here. And we're going to solo that. Make sure that you start playback in a verse to hear the sound of the verse acoustic guitar. So let's listen to it here. Okay. We're going to click on the now we've got this in the channel strip setting here. We can obviously send it, so we can go to our sends and go to bus 2 aux 2 there and send it to Space Designer. Now we can hear it. And if we raise this bus level, you will hear it coming in. Okay, so that's how we adjust individual levels of reverb for the tracks that we're sending to the reverb by adjusting the bus level. Okay. Let's just close this now. Obviously, you can do that for any of the tracks here and send them to the bus. Every single channel strip has a send section, and you can set that up however you want to send whichever parts of the mix to the reverb or any other effect actually. But now we're going to look at using dynamic processing plugins. Okay. So in some of my other sessions, I may have gone through signal processing, and dynamic signal processing is all about changing the dynamic range. Okay, so the dynamic range of a recording is the difference between the softest and the loudest parts of the recording. So sometimes too much dynamic range in a recording can be a problem, as the loudest parts become too loud and the soft parts are barely audible, so they're hard to control in a mix. You can use dynamic processing plugins such as a compressor or a limiter to control that dynamic range. Okay, so when recording an instrument, the musician rarely plays all the notes at the same volume, so this is the challenge when we need to mix it. A compressor attenuates a signal when its level reaches a specific threshold. You can use it to attenuate notes that are too loud, and then raise the level, raise the overall level of the instrument to bring up the softer notes. And in this way, we're reducing the dynamic range. So we're going to use the compressor plugin to make the dynamic range of the acoustic guitar in your intro more consistent, making sure you can hear all the notes at the same level. So let's drag a cycle area from bar 4 to 9. Okay, if we just zoom in on this area by holding down Control Alt, and we drag a cycle region from 4 to 9 there. Let's listen to that acoustic guitar track. Okay, some of the notes are a bit soft and get buried behind the bass and the vocals. If we listen to that with the solo off,
there's a room with all the rain.
So they get lost in a mix. So we're going to control the dynamic range of that to bring that up. So in the channel strip setting area here, we're going to click the first available slot, and we're going to choose Dynamics Compressor. Okay. While the song is playing back, we're going to look at the gain reduction meter. It becomes active when the compressor is triggered. Some of the guitar notes barely trigger the compressor, and you can see the meter react. Below the compression threshold slider here, two buttons let you choose between peak and RMS, or root mean squared methods, to analyze the incoming audio signal and determine how it should trigger the compressor. The acoustic guitar notes have strong attacks, like the first part of the sound are very strong, and you want the attacks to be attenuated by the compressor, so you'll choose peak, okay, because we want it to focus on the peaks, the transients, not the average level of the sound, the peaks. On the gain reduction meter, you can see the attack of the notes being attenuated a little more when RMS, than when RMS was selected. So if we have a listen to that.
There's a room with all the rain, somewhere out the court, falling from the drain.
So we're getting a lot more gain reduction now, which means we can raise the level a bit more. Okay, let's drag the threshold slider down to minus 19.5. Okay, and let's have a look at it now.
There's a room with all the rain, somewhere out the court, falling from the drain, in the center of the floor.
Okay, so on the gain reduction meter, you can now see the gain, the compressor being triggered by all of the notes, and the gain reduction slowly decreases as the notes sustain, and you can hear the notes actually sustain longer. You can adjust the amount of compression with the ratio slider. Okay, the ratio slider is down here. At the moment, it's on 1.5 to 1. We're going to drag it up to 3.3 to 1. Just there. Let's have a listen to that now.
There's a room with all the rain.
Okay, notice that the gain slider is set to 4 dB, which is raising the overall level of the guitar signal. Over here, 4 dB. The compressor attenuates the parts of the signal that go above the threshold, then raises the overall level to compensate for that attenuation, because we're actually reducing the overall level because we're attenuating. We're getting gain reduction up here every time it goes above the threshold of minus 19.5 dB. So, you know, without this gain, it would be a lot lower If we set that to 0 dB, i.e. no gain, then it would sound a lot quieter than it would do with the effect bypassed. Okay, so we want to add in a little bit of gain to make up for that gain reduction. Okay, let's just close that for now. And I'm going to turn off the cycle mode there. So we're going to look at using a compressor and a limiter on the master channel strip now, as a way of finalizing our mix. On a professional project, you wouldn't usually send your final mix to you would normally send your final mix to a mastering engineer to do proper mastering. They'd put a final polish on the stereo audio file using very subtle amounts of EQ, compression and reverb, or other types of processing. When you don't have the budget to hire a mastering engineer, you can master your own mix, inserting plugins on the stereo out channel strip. Okay, if we look at that in the mixer, that's the one on the end. Okay, you can see down here, stereo out. Okay, that's our stereo out thing. Channel strip, we can add our own effects onto that, and that's our main out. So we're going to start by using a compressor to make the mix level consistent throughout the song, and then apply a limiter to make sure you're not clipping the stereo out channel strip audio. So we're going to start playback at the beginning of the song, and when you choose a bus in the send slot of the left arranged channel strip, the right arranged channel strip automatically updates to display the aux corresponding to that bus. You can choose to display any channel strip in the signal flow of the left arranged channel strip by clicking the desired send or output slot. So on the left arranged channel strip, we're going to click the output slot. Okay. The right arrange, so we can see here now where it says stereo output. And the right arranged channel strip now displays the stereo out channel strip. Okay, so it doesn't matter what this left channel strip is. If you just select stereo out, it no longer shows the aux channel on the left that we had before, and now shows the stereo out channel. Okay, so in effect we don't really need this mixer up anymore, so we can get rid of that and we can see everything here. Okay, so there we go. On the stereo out channel strip, click the first insert slot and choose Dynamics Compressor. Choose that there. And this time we're going to use a setting designed to emulate the soft, warm compression of analog tape recorders. So from the setting menu, we're going to choose 05 compressor tools, and we're going to choose from that platinum analog tape. Okay, so try playing different sections of the song. In the intro, for example, the bass barely triggers the compressor. Let's have a listen to that. In the first verse, the compressor attenuates the mix by 1 or 2 dB. So listen.
There's a room with all the rain.
In the loudest parts of the song, like the choruses, it does it even more. Since the gain parameter raises the overall level at the output of the compressor, you end up with a louder mix with more consistent levels from each section. You can see the clip detector on the stereo out channel strip is going into the red for the very loudest sections. And if it does that, we need to make sure that we've got a limiter to stop it going into the red. So let's just get rid of that for now, just close that down. And we're going to insert a limiter after the compressor to ensure we don't clip the output. Okay, a limiter works in a similar manner to a compression, but when the signal level reaches a certain threshold, the limiter attenuates the signal so the output signal never exceeds a specific ceiling point. So we're going to click the insert slot below the compressor here. We're going to choose Dynamics, and we're going to choose Adaptive Limiter. At the bottom of the Adaptive Limiter plugin window, down here, the out ceiling, which is this bit here, out ceiling, is set to 0 dB, ensuring that the signal will never go over 0 dBFS on the stereo output channel strip. The meters on the left display the signal level at the input of the plugin. The meters on the right, over here, display the signal level at the output of the plugin. When adjusting the adaptive limiter, you should adjust the input scale knob to avoid having red overs here on the input meters. However, sometimes a few red overs can be okay, but make sure you're listening to it and it's not happening very often. We're going to drag the input scale up here down to -3.4. At the top of the input meters, we're going to click both red over warnings to make sure that they are reset. Okay, and you just need to listen to it and make sure that the overs don't go over into the red all the time. Preferably not at all. You can now adjust the gain knob in the middle of the plugin to raise the perceived level of the mix. Okay, so we can raise the perceived level of the mix using this gain here. This is when you need to pay close attention to what you are hearing. Okay, so listen carefully. Although it's tempting to raise the gain to produce a louder mix, higher gain settings will introduce distortion. So we're going to drag the gain knob up to 10 dB. Like that. And you can clearly hear the distortion introduced by the adaptive limiter, even though the signal is not clipping on the stereo out channel strip meters. Okay, it just sounds harsh. So let's drag it back down. Drag it down to around 5.9, 5.8. So even though the adaptive limiter's output meters still display over warnings at points, the audible distortion disappears, and the adaptive limiter gives you a nice gain boost on the whole mix. So let's just close that now. And on the stereo out channel strip, we're going to option click the plugin inserts to turn both plugins on and off, comparing the mix with and without the compressor and limiter. So we can choose option to listen back to those.
Your hands upon my chest, cotton candy trees, everything I take dissolves eventually.
So we can hear how that affects the song. And it makes it sound more consistent overall when you listen back to the whole song, even the quieter parts. Okay, so you finish your mix using effects and plugins and adjusting the four main parameters of the instrument sounds, which are volume levels, pan position, frequency, and depth, to give each sound a place of its own in the stereo sound field. To study and listen to one possible version of this final mix, you can go to Logic 9 Files, Media, Mitchell Valves Prolapse, and depending on your version of Logic 9, open one of the Logic projects, which will either be Mitchell Valve Prolapse Logic 9 or Logic Express 9. And the final mix is more complete with additional tracks and more processing plugins applied. It also includes a lot of track automation, which will be the topic of the next lesson. Okay.